Hello, and welcome to this little seminar podcast question mark that I'm hosting. I don't know,
Yay.
but basically, I realized there aren't a lot of resources online, school or animation school, or like a group of people discussing their experience. And I think it would be nice if we made one, except for most of the people here. Well, for everyone, we're all CalArts students, BFE too. Well, hopefully you gain something from this. Wow. Yay. Yay. And hopefully this recording is working well. You'll see little icons of everyone popping up and you can tell who's speaking. So everyone will introduce themselves and then afterwards I'll go to each question one by one. I have them separated into 3 categories. So it's choosing school questions, like figuring out if this like art school is right for you or not, stuff like that. Second one is application questions, like how do you apply? What do you draw? Stuff like that. And then last one is like, how is art school actually like? So school life questions. Yeah. So I'll briefly read each question out loud. And each question was like submitted by people that I asked online, like, what do you have to ask about art school? And then we'll all respond to them. Yay!
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 Yay times 3.
Okay.
Good.
Next slide. Introductions. Okay, so who am I? You're like, why should I care about this video if you happen to watch it? So I'm Jamie. I go by they, them pronouns, and I am going to be a BFA 2 in CalArts character animation. And I decided to set this little thing up. So hopefully it works. Yay. So I'll be the one directing this, and also I'll be moving the slides back and forth. And hopefully I'll do a good job editing.
I'm Jenn. I'm a BFA 2, and I'm in character animation too at CalArts, and my pronouns are she, her, and I have 3 chickens. Oh wait, no, I have 2.
Whoa.
What happened to the third one?
She died.
Oh
No.
my god!
I'm sorry.
Oh no, I'm so sorry. I can't believe this is the first time I'm finding out about this.
It's okay.
Oh lord. Sorry about your
Alright.
chicken.
Sorry.
My name's Kirsten. I go by she, they, and I'm also BFA 2 on character animation arts. And I have 1 dog and 1 cat who are both alive.
Yay.
Good for y'all.
Awesome.
Yay.
Congratulations.
Thank
Congratulations.
Awesome. Okay, my name is I'm Lyly. I go by she, her. I'm also a BFA 2 character animation in CalArts. I love hamsters. I'm a hamster enthusiast. I currently don't have any hamsters, but I used to have 11. So
Whoa.
that's worth going into a
you.
record.
Oh my god.
Thank
True.
you.
11
Thank you.
hamsters.
I had 2 and then they had a lot of kids. So that's what happened. Anyway, yeah.
Hello, I'm Rita. Everyone here is BFA 2. I'm BFA 2. I go by any pronouns. I don't have any pets. I used to have fish when I was very little, and then they were put in the bottom of like a water jug that also held a water plant, so they very quickly suffocated to death. And since then, I have not had any pets.
Sorry.
Don't trust me with
Triple
your
thought.
Oh, for clarification, BFA is bachelor's degree in art.
fine arts.
Fine arts. Yeah.
Fine arts.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We're all pursuing a 4-year program.
Yes.
There we go.
It's me? Okay. Hi, I'm Ivy. I'm a first year at CalArts, and yeah, I am. Yeah.
Yay!
Woo.
Yay.
Also, you're BFA 2 now.
Yeah, we're all second years.
Oh.
Yeah,
Oh.
I'm sorry to
I'm
break
glad.
it to you like that.
Sorry.
No.
Actually, it's crazy how fast it's going.
Stop it.
Now we're
Don't
25%
remind me.
Yeah.
through. How does everyone feel?
Not well.
No.
Not good.
Kind of sick.
I still
Kind
haven't
of
finished my
foul.
first year
I
film.
feel like I haven't done anything in this whole year.
Yeah, me too.
So
I go by Andy, and I use any pronouns. I don't really care, and I'm currently going into my 4th semester at ArtCenter.
Woo!
Woo!
Whoa.
Woo!
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty much.
Woo!
Okay. Hi, my name is Vince. I go to CalArts, BFA 2, entering BFA 2.
First section is choosing school questions. And first question is private versus public art school. Other art school routes that aren't talked about. For example, community college. Okay. I'm assuming, I think I'll speak the most on this because I actually did go to community college. I think everyone else here is a first time applicant. Yeah. So even my answer to this isn't exactly the fullest because I didn't do like an animation degree at community college. So for me, I did 1 year of community college. It was online because of COVID, but it was, even though I took some art classes, it was mainly for like GED credits, which are, to explain to people who don't know that, it's like called general education credits, which are like like, not like the main classes you take for your major, basically. Yeah. So they're exactly what they are. They're general classes. So I took 2 art classes there, but they're very much like drawing 101, learning how to sketch, how to shade a ball and add shadow, those kind of things.
Man.
But it's like, it's not bad education. But I think, I can't speak for like community colleges that actually have an animation route, but I think what was interesting was that like your student population is going to be like very different because for me, it was very like obvious that I was trying to transfer into like pursuing an art major, but I was also in class with like moms who wanted to just draw to relax.
Good for them.
They were just taking
Good
the
for
class to chill. So very different age differences, like big age differences and different career paths. Like for some of them, you could tell they just took art to like get their art credit away. So they weren't serious. So I think that's probably one big thing you will gain from like community colleges or like public colleges is that there's going to be people with different experiences and different majors, which I think for some people, they like that. Like you actually have friends who are in different majors, but in private school, or at least CalArts culture, we very much just stick to our majors. So you're going to be surrounded like pretty much just all art majors. Like CalArts only offers art majors, right? Even if it's like music or theater. So if that's not the culture you want to surround yourself in, that's fine. That's why public schools exist. But that's all I can speak.
I think it's like for CalArts, it's very much like an kind of like you enter like an artistic bubble, kind of like you know people from like other areas, but they all like couldn't have to do with like art related stuff. So that's again, yeah, you have to know yourself and like what kind of environment you want to surround yourself in. Yeah.
True.
Yeah, it's not like a tradition. Is it tradition? A liberal arts college where like if you wanted to switch to, I don't know, a STEM degree, then you would not be able to at CalArts, but you would be able to at a liberal arts college.
There is the School of Critical Studies, but I don't know much about it, to be fair. I don't know much about it. I know who are in critical studies have been in it for a while. Like they're usually doing an MFA or something like that.
Yeah, like even going in, I wouldn't say that CalArts has any STEM degrees or like anything that goes toward non-humanity stuff. Even if you want to do critical studies, it's like very much like a supplement for your artistic practice. So for the people who are like doing the, I see people who are doing like a Brown and RISD dual degree or like something STEM-y and then an art as a minor, like it is a very viable path, although stressful, like when you're considering pathways to take in the future. But do know that CalArts only has art programs, and they're usually really niche. So yeah.
I wonder if they also asked about like online schooling.
Oh yeah, true.
Or not, because I think like online schooling is also like a pretty viable option, like for art at least, or like like illustration, animation stuff and stuff. Like if you want like right, because if you want like focused niche, and you don't want to actually move there to study, like online art school is pretty good. I think I joined a few courses and I enjoyed it. Definitely not like traditional art school, but definitely still like if you want to learn something specifically, I don't know, like Cinema 4D or like very advanced Photoshop techniques that is cool, that's viable as well.
Yeah, I feel like this is going to be brought up a lot, but you definitely don't need a degree to get into animation or any commercial art like medium. I feel like work on your skills and your portfolio, you'll be fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think like our teachers say this as well, where like it's the portfolio and like the stuff that you put out is more important than whether you have the degree or not. So like don't stress too much about having to finish all 4 years and like getting the finished credits, because like a lot of people in the industry don't do that anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think this kind of bleeds into the second question too.
Oh yeah, the second question. Yeah. We kind of answered it. Let me just say it out loud. The expectation to go to art school instead of something cheaper, is it worth going to a less expensive but unknown art school because it's about connections? What does animation school specifically provide students? Is it mostly just connections? Well, they're just asking about connections.
Yeah.
Right.
I think
for sure.
What's great about your 2022 is that you can make connections online. You can just pop your head into little art communities on Instagram or like, I don't know, like Twitter and find a footing there.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And a lot of recruiters look online on social media too. So it's not like you're missing out on a bunch. But I think the biggest thing that art school, like picking like a traditional, quote unquote, art school path is it surrounds you with like a physical in-person community, and everyone, you know, works really hard. So you're kind of you know, feeling that the passion and the drive to also work hard, like being surrounded by everyone in the labs. If you need like a definite structure to your day, if you want like a very like tailored curriculum that's not at your own pace, because you need that in your life, then I think art school is a good choice. Because I don't think by myself on my own I would have been able to do like make my own like art school curriculum just by curating my own online classes, even if it were cheaper. I just don't have that kind of work ethic. So yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. I think like because like back in quarantine time I also tried to like enter like online communities and like try to give myself like a schedule, but definitely like being in art college and like actually physically being in the labs and like working alongside everyone else, and I could just like, you know, turn my head and like ask and talk to people and like learn stuff. I feel like suddenly I'm so much more hardworking and productive. Suddenly I am making art a lot faster, you know? Yeah.
Yeah, and then I think there is also something really helpful about talking to people like teachers and instructors in our life, especially ones that work in the industry.
Yeah. Because like our teachers, a lot of them are not online either, you know, like the people you get to know online are either extremely online, and then when you go to art school, like these people, they're not really like on social media. So it's hard to get to them. And then now here you're like physically there, you're like, you can just come to class and talk to them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think one of the things that CalArts boasts is the fact that all of the practicing faculty are like full-time artists aside from their teaching profession, which is a problem because like it doesn't, it kind of wears the teachers out and doesn't give like the mentorship program a lot of good light, because you know a lot of the time the teachers are kind of burnt out from holding an art
they're
job,
like busy
alongside with their teaching. Different issue, but it's nice to have people who are very acquainted with the things that you want to do in the future.
Yeah.
They're not like, the information is not out of date since they're currently in the industry. So I think that's sometimes really helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think another thing that I really paid focus when like going to art school was like the networking events. So like like open show or producer show or portfolio day for CalArts at least. It's kind of like an event that we kind of like an official school event that you get to present your portfolio or like get to talk to people in the industry and like potentially getting hired or like, you know, getting jobs or even just like networking in general, which I think would be harder to do by myself. But now I get to like stand on the name of CalArts and like, because CalArts already have connections with these people, right? So like they can invite the people from the studios and we can just present our portfolio to them. So like it cuts kind of like a lot of hardship on our end to get our portfolio to the studio's hands and eyes, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
True.
So true.
Mm-hmm. True.
Yeah. And if you are really hung up about connections, or if you just like don't necessarily want to go to art school but want access to events like that, I think signing up to be a member in like the animation guilds or like women in animation or agents in animation, like any of those type of animation relations would be really good too. Because you get emails on like, you know, like meetups and like interviews and all that type of stuff.
Yeah, and like talks that are like exclusive to those mailing lists.
Yeah.
So it's nice.
There's also lots of animation conventions.
Yeah.
Like
so
CTM,
like Lightbox?
Yeah.
CTM.
And you can get portfolio reviews there, and
that's true too. Yeah. Bunch of events you can like find online and like put your name in and stuff.
Yeah, and bother the people in line with. That's how you make friends.
True.
Okay. This next question, I feel like I'll answer this first because I have some thoughts of being rejected the first time I applied, which is thoughts on CalArts or bust mindset in aspiring animation students. So I think it sounds like annoying coming from someone who's actually attending the school, but obviously CalArts is like way too glamorized. Like, please do your research. And CalArts has many problems. Let's be honest. There's it's not perfect. There's got some issues. But even with those issues, I still think going to college was the right decision for me, but not necessarily for everyone else, which is why I decided to reapply. Like there's a lot of factors into it. Obviously the cost. It's expensive, right? And then location. For me, I'm Californian, so the transfer to SoCal wasn't that bad. But if you're like East Coast or international, it's gonna be way different environment, right?
Oh yeah. Also, they say that your CalArts campus is close to LA, but it's a 30-minute drive. And
it's not close.
And even longer with if you count in the traffic and stuff like that.
And if you want to take public transit, it's an hour and a half.
Oh god, yeah. And it's
Uber.
Public transit is really bad.
Yeah.
Definitely. It's
that's an LA problem.
And there's nothing around the campus, honestly. Other than like a couple shopping centers.
The mall is great, but that's all.
Yeah, that's definitely like more like logistically, CalArts is not a very like convenient, in a very convenient location. But at least it's in SoCal, so it's like near the animation studio. So I guess in some way you're close to them. But yeah.
True.
Oh, I had one more thing to say, but you can add on, which is that a lot of people honestly don't look into the curriculum. Like that's why there's stupid stuff like CalArts online where everyone's just like, oh, everyone at CalArts does the same, and we all work at Gravity Falls, and we can show this, but that's not true.
First of all, Rebecca Sugar didn't even go to CalArts. I feel like
I think no matter how you argue it, people will always be mad about it.
Oh my god. And then people would put it on like the infamous CalArts style post where it shows like the faces of like the main characters and shows. And like most of them didn't even go to CalArts.
It's about the bean mouth.
interesting that is. Yes.
I think also people don't realize that some people actually do realize, and that's why they want to come to CalArts, which is that you have to make a film by yourself every year. Like that is a huge thing. And for some people it's not it. If you are not a fan of doing the entire pipeline and doing it mainly by yourself, you are not going to enjoy CalArts, in my opinion. Like if you're someone if you'd rather be like Sheridan, that like you spend more time, I believe, on a thesis film, like one more like built up final product, then cool. Because even for a film, 1 year, like it seems long to people who don't make films, but honestly, it's like not long. And then if you're not someone who's willing to be like a storyboarder, designer, background, animation, like if you're not willing to do all of the pipeline and rather do like group films like Gablons, then CalArts might not be for you. That's another thing for the CalArts request.
Yeah, we do have fun little challenges over the year. We have something called 48 hour where you can team up with yourself or with other people and make a film in 48 hours, or we have a 1 week film that usually happens in the second year, I feel like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But most of the time the final film is very by yourself. You think of the idea yourself, you do the animation yourself, the design yourself, pretty much everything yourself. You obviously can get feedback and help from other people, but it is mainly a one person type thing.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I think definitely like know yourself before choosing art school and right, like looking into curriculums and stuff because I chose CalArts because I wanted to like try every part of the pipeline before like going into the industry and be like, okay, this is what I want to do and I will like focus on this for my portfolio. So like making a whole film, you get to go through all the parts of the pipeline. So that was like useful. But if you already knew what you want to do, like, oh yeah, I'm going to be a background artist. So you can just enter art college and you don't want to really get into the other parts of the pipeline. You could just like go to Sheridan or go Blondes instead with the team films.
True. Yeah. I will clarify though that Sheridan does make you do fundamentals and I think traditional only for the first year or so. But yeah, it's if you already have a solid idea of what you want to do in the industry, CalArts will force you to do other parts as well. And a big pet peeve is that they won't let us collaborate on our final films. Yeah, I think there's a requirement for you to submit a film for like a digital methods grade. But some people collaborated because it's like a film that they worked on spanning multiple years, or like they already had something going on the side, like Anya and Young, I think. But you are required to do your own. I'm pretty sure.
Your film is also very important. Yeah.
Yeah.
Your film is very important every year. I feel like most of the classes you learn stuff to make your film. If that makes sense.
That's true.
Yes.
Because it's always like, because it's like you're in digital methods, which is a class we have where we just learn stuff in other programs, and it's like, oh, we're learning this, so maybe you could use this in your film later and stuff like that type of thing.
There's something I didn't know about CalArts before I came here. I think it's that like the first 2 years is like a bunch of fundamentals, or not fundamentals, just like there's a lot more classes, and then third and fourth year they expect a little bit more specialization, and then they give you less classes and more time for your films.
I can see that. Yeah. Right. If they get the core classes in, and then like third year, you have more time to like see what you want to do.
The film, I think like the film minimum, it gets longer and longer, and by third year and fourth year, you need more time for it.
Yeah.
Fourth year is 7 minutes maximum, I think.
One thing I do know is that for first year there are some restrictions. You don't have to follow them, obviously, but to be an open show and be qualified for the producer show, which is like first year black and white, no dialogue or syncing sound, basically, and having to be 1 minute and 30 seconds.
Yeah, second year is in color, 2-minute 30-second, and optional dialogue.
Yeah. Also optional in color technically, but everyone does color.
Yeah.
Right. Which is a good opportunity.
True.
Third year is 4 minute 30. Fourth year is 7 minute 30 max. All in color.
The question is CalArts or bust mindset, right? You don't have to aim for CalArts. It's not necessary to become an animator.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
It may sound like it, because I'm guilty of this too. I think all of high school, I was like, I must get into CalArts. And I guess it doesn't carry much weight because I am at CalArts, but but if I didn't get in or if I went path, I think everything would have been fine, and I wouldn't be more than 60K in debt.
Wait, Jamie, what did you call it? Post acceptance clarity?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yes, that's a real thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we all entered into post acceptance clarity once we made like the accepted Discord server, and then CalArts started rolling out emails telling us like how screwed we were going to be.
Yeah.
And then we all kind of bonded in solidarity against CalArts.
Over the gossip.
Yeah. One thing is, before the acceptance letters come in, you feel like you're gonna throw up, and you just want to be, you want to accept it so bad, no matter what. Like you would like kill someone's baby just to like get in. But then once you get in, and then you get these like shitty little emails with information and stuff like that, you're just like, wow. I can't believe I'm gonna go through with this, but whatever.
Or there's like student talks that they invited us to, and basically all the older students would be like, this thing is going terrible at this school, but like, you know.
Yeah.
And then little awkward. Yeah.
One thing is the people are great.
Yeah, the people are really great.
That is, I think that is the number one argument on why when someone asks like, why are you still at CalArts if it sucks? You just feel like, I like my friends. I like the people I'm with.
Yeah.
I'm paying 60K to have friends.
This is probably like everyone felt this, but like, you know, during portfolio and like waiting for the acceptance or rejection letter, like I felt like if I get in, everything in my life will be solved. You know, like I will gain happiness.
Yeah.
Right. And then after that's like all that thing come out and like, oh my God, yeah, I'm accepted. But then what now? Now I have to do my film.
Yeah.
Now I have to...
Yeah, getting accepted didn't fix me.
So it's not the end? Are you kidding me? This is not the end? You know, it's like the beginning.
Yeah. I think it's basically something every person graduating from high school feels is like, once I get into college, my life is done. Like the movie's over. But it's just beginning. Yeah.
It's just starting.
It's just beginning.
Next question. Thoughts on CalArts or bust mindset in aspiring animation students?
I feel like it's probably because of like the reputation CalArts has, but I feel like there's definitely a lot of other options. And even then, like CalArts does not work for everyone. I don't know. Personally, I don't want to be an animator, and I know like the character animation track in CalArts is like very, very animation oriented. So like if I were a CalArts student, I feel like I would be hating my life. Yeah, but yeah, I don't know. I'm very comfortable in ArtCenter just because like I have like more control over what I want to focus specifically, and yeah.
I'll just say the question out loud, but we pretty much answered it, which is I took this straight from someone's text, so that's why there's a crying emoji. But is she feeling worthy of the price tag too? Sob emoji. And if people are comfy, how did everyone come in terms of the foreign workers here?
Student loans.
Student loans.
If you're American, take government loans.
Yes.
Yeah.
Fill
You
out your
don't have interest right
FAFSA.
now.
Fill out your FAFSA.
Yeah.
If you're international,
Yeah.
apply for CSS profile or get student loans from your local
Right.
government.
Right.
Mhm.
Yes.
I think
Also,
yeah.
CISA gives you some scholarship, but
Oh yeah.
only one time.
But it's like
wait, only
Yeah.
one time?
2,000.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's 2,500 one time.
Okay, I just wanted to say apply for every scholarship you find. It doesn't matter if it's like only $50. Like
Yeah.
apply to, and then try to look
Take
for
all
the
the help
most
you can
like
get. Yeah.
ultra specific scholarships to you so you could just win them.
Yeah.
Easy.
Also, yeah. Also, fun
Easy money.
fact. Character animation technically is a STEM major, so just apply to STEM scholarships anyways.
True.
Oh.
Yeah.
Shoot your shot.
Interesting.
It counts
Yeah.
as technology.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think one of the biggest eye-opening moments after we got accepted was us all talking about how little CalArts gave us in their financial aid packages. Just
that
like
was-
in the year that we applied, the max merit scholarship was 10,000. A couple years before, I've heard 18,000. I've heard 14,000. But yeah, most of the money you're gonna get is either from your FAFSA or from scholarships that you apply for independently. Don't count on CalArts to fund your education. I'm pretty sure they're kind of not doing well financially either. So despite receiving all of our money, they keep asking for
there's
more.
something happening there.
Yeah.
We don't know what it is,
It's
but
not
there's
adding
something.
up. It's not adding up.
The math is not math.
Yeah.
I think it's like a really mixed feeling when it comes to like paying tuition and like seeing if it's worth it or not. It's like really mixed because like you get good experience, but also like the facilities and just how not transparent everything is with the student body is just like it's a really mixed feeling. So then again, I feel like when at the beginning of the first year when we got the acceptance letter, like for me at least, it was just because it was my dream school. So that was like even after like the really shitty finance aid and stuff, I was like, okay, but it's still my dream school. I'm just gonna like bite my teeth and go through it.
If you actually will struggle financially going to CalArts, don't go. Like if it's gonna take too much energy to just attend, just don't do it.
Yeah, it's not worth it.
Don't fight your life for it. You know?
Yeah, I'm here because of the copious amounts of student loans the Canadian government has given me, but yeah, don't do it.
I didn't get much financial aid from CalArts. I think I got around, I gotta check, but like I didn't get that much financial aid, and I also didn't get much from the government either. So I had to go into private loans, which is but I think you should definitely research about that because there's a thing called interest and stuff like that. You gotta research different places and banks and where the best loans are from.
Yep.
Just do your research, everyone. Do your research.
But repaying student loans will build your credit. So if that's what you're looking for, it will help.
One thing I'm lucky for is that my family helps me pay off my loans. So that's why I think I'll be okay. But if you are in a financial situation, don't do it. Please don't do it.
You can ask this question applying to ArtCenter as well, because I know it's also a private school, which is she feeling worthy of the price tag? Top emoji. And if people are comfy, how did everyone come to terms with affording their first year?
Well, ArtCenter is raising their price like $1,000 every year.
Ooh.
And which is kind of, I don't know, there's definitely a lot of like issues with it within like the ArtCenter students because of it. Because ArtCenter is actually supposed to be a non-profit school, but like they're raising their price every semester. I mean every year. But I guess on the other hand, they do give like very generous financial aid. I think I'm getting like out of like I don't know the 20. Or I don't even know how much the year is. I think out of the 24 per semester, I'm paying only like $1,000 maybe.
That's nice.
Because because of like the financial aid, and also I have like a separate scholarship, but without the scholarship, I'll only be paying like still like I don't know $6,000.
Ooh.
But it's
That's really good.
ArtCenter's, yeah. I'm very glad, but it's ArtCenter's still very pricey, even though they're supposed to be non-profits. But price tag aside, ArtCenter does have like a lot of resources for like financial aid, and every semester they give like you can have a portfolio review. That's what they call it, I think, where they basically review your work so far, and they can decide on raising your financial aid, or they also give grants every semester, which go up to like maybe $3,000 extra, and that can go like directly to your pocket. It doesn't have to necessarily go to like your school fees.
That's epic.
Nice.
Yeah, I wish CalArts had that for real.
Yeah.
Okay, because this next section, this is a very big question. Oh yeah, so this is the next section. We're doing application questions, and here's the big question. When did you start thinking about art school and working on your application? Because it's different for everyone. I'll just briefly say my experience, but I feel like it is very useful that everyone says their experience because it does vary greatly. So for me, I did not grow to a very pleasant environment. So I didn't necessarily grow up thinking I would pursue this kind of degree until like 3 months before, or like 3 to 5 months before applications were due. And then suddenly I got the opportunity to do it. And I was like, oh, I kind of am not prepared. I'm not prepared anyway. So that's when I started doing figure drawing, something you should do, and just doing observational work or like considering making a portfolio. But to be honest, I didn't really know like what direction to go, and I never got really like classical training. So I didn't get in my first year, which is fine. Like I did take some like small classes, but they were more like fine art stuff, which were like charcoal or like oil painting, which I mean they're like useful technical skills, but obviously like the pieces I made didn't go into animation portfolio. So honestly, I'm glad I didn't get in my first year because I feel like if I went in my first year with that kind of skill set, I would have struggled a lot. But then COVID happened. So then I just realized, okay, I'm going to take a gap year because a lot of schools were being like, we're going to stay online, but pay full tuition. I was like, that's a scam. I'm not going to do that.
So true.
It's also COVID and quarantine. So like just the whole mental situation is bad for everyone. So I was like, I'm going to do a like quote unquote gap year, which was community college. And I just did online classes to get general education out of it. And the nice thing about quarantine is that there's nothing to really do because you're stuck inside. So all I do was just draw for practice. Yeah. But since it's quarantine, you can only figure draw with like online resources, but that was fine. So then I was also lucky in that my community college had a really long like winter break. Like it was conveniently like a month before applications were due. So for the entire winter break, all I did was drawings. And then I applied. So that is my story briefly.
So true.
Okay. So I started about a year and a half before the application deadline, and I'm pretty like useless at everything else. I just go to art, just go to art school. Yeah. So I stay at like a Chinese application agency that specializes for animation, and I basically got some classes out there like figure drawing, basic anatomy, some shot framing, like story class things, and that's it. And also during quarantine, there's like the seed online drawings, so I just drew that, and then I got it on the first try. Like yeah. Wait, also I did like 30 seconds animatic for my application during that time. So
Nice.
Damn. What is it?
Imagine.
Crazy.
imagine. Yeah, I couldn't do that now. Like, I struggle to finish this 1 minute 30-second film. Yeah.
Still slay.
Yeah, so that's
Ivy's
Alright.
portfolio is super cool. You guys should watch it. Kind of decided on art school in the transition between 10th and 11th grade. Same reason as Ivy. I just didn't think I was gonna be good at anything else. Which is kind of a cynical look at my own abilities, but it is the truth. I think mostly because for mental health reasons, the only thing I could see myself working on in the future was something in the art field. I think I would be quite miserable if I went into academia. So that is the reason. But I did apply to some backup schools in Ontario, Southern Ontario mostly, in case I did not get in. And I started working on my portfolio loosely. Like I started practicing for it maybe a year before. I went into some drop-in life drawing sessions at my local art university, OCAD. But I didn't start working seriously on it until maybe around like 5 or 6 months before. And basically all my observational stuff was done sitting in my own room during quarantine looking at photos I'd taken over the course of 2019 when there was no COVID. My sketchbook was done not recommended. It was done a month before the deadline. And
Hey.
as everyone will corroborate, we did do some ripping out and gluing of the pages
Oh no.
in the couple days before the deadline.
We don't talk about that.
Okay, yeah,
You're
we did.
giving me
Yeah, yeah,
flashbacks.
fine.
We don't
Yeah,
talk about
totally original. It was exactly how I'd bought it. Is how I handed it in.
it.
But yeah, a good thing that helped was that we were supposed to film our sketchbooks this year, and did some color grading and made it not look like shit. And it was yeah. But yeah, and some parts of my most of my non-observational work was done for my senior art thesis that I kind of already had done, so that was a big help. But most of my observational and sketchbook was done very shortly before the deadline, which I do not recommend. Please start early. Yeah.
Nice.
yeah.
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 I can go now.
I think Jen's next.
Yes,
Yeah.
Jen.
I think I kind of decided around middle school that I wanted to go to CalArts, and specifically CalArts. I don't know what led to I think just following a bunch of artists. I don't know how to explain it, but either way, I went to CISA in 2017, and that's when I started doing figure drawing. And I don't think I really took it too seriously. Like I didn't start doing portfolio actively until junior year second semester. I think like the oldest piece I used in my portfolio was from 2018, and that's like only like one of them. I think I made a lot of the pieces I made before junior year. I thought weren't good enough, and then I also tried to redo my whole portfolio in the last few months before the deadline because I don't think I had to do it though.
Why?
It's like I don't know why. I just didn't think anything was good enough. But then
You had a moment.
I had a moment. I like barely slept in those months, and that's why I don't suggest this at all. I
Right.
don't think it's necessary at all. I think my original
true.
works would have been okay. I also submitted my portfolio like 3 minutes before the deadline. I don't know.
Don't do that. Yeah,
Don't
don't do that.
Don't do
Don't
that.
do that.
We're happy you're
The
here, Jen,
server
but don't do
sometimes
that.
crash. Yeah.
Oh
Jen-
yeah, the website
Jen
is
is
so
lucky.
slow.
The
Jen is very
website is
lucky
really
about this.
risky. Yeah. Please submit early.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't do what I did. I think when making portfolio, it's good to like account for the other portfolios you'll be making. I don't know if you're applying to any other schools. for art or anything else.
Mm-hmm.
They kind of all want they have slightly different prompts, and you have to tweak your portfolio in different ways. Sometimes have to make different pieces for different schools, and I think
Yeah.
you should
Mm-hmm.
make a list, account time for that.
Yeah.
I still think as what's kind of different about the CalArts like portfolio process is that like I feel like observationals are very important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like some other schools would probably like prefer a strong creative works like ArtCenter concept art design major. I think they really look into like creative work a lot more than how CalArts view the creative part of the portfolio.
Yeah. I also applied for like
Yeah.
RISD and Institute of Chicago, SAIC. I think a lot of like the more fine arts leaning schools, even if they are animation, they're looking for you to more have like a consistent body of work, like a theme that goes through your works rather than just having you have like strong observational skills. They put a lot more emphasis on uh the
Theme.
process of making a finished piece. And also they have application deadlines that are way later. Yeah. But a good thing is that you can do all your pieces for CalArts and then just distribute them to whatever schools that you intend to apply to next.
Yeah, that's literally how I did it too.
Yeah, me too.
It's like top school pieces and then the other options you
Yeah.
get the yeah.
I didn't make any new pieces for other art schools except for Sheridan because it had like specific requirements. But yeah, CalArts has a pretty lax view on portfolio stuff. So
I had like a Venn diagram of like 3 portfolios with some overlapping from each one.
True.
Because I had like game design, animation, and fine arts, and then I had like it's like a weird Venn diagram.
Yeah.
Yes.
For my experience, I think I started prepping for my portfolio back in like April 2020, like start of quarantine. I think that's like 6-7 months before the deadline, which I think definitely should have been earlier. So like the earlier you can prepare, the better. Because I definitely like went to hell like back and forth trying to like intensely practice every day. Like I joined like 3 art courses in the summer, which really helped, but that was like a lot of stress. Yeah, but I think like back in quarantine, I had so much time just being alone in my room, and I was like, damn, I really gotta pick myself up and actually get better because I wanted to get into CalArts. It's always kind of been there in my head, but now it's like I really gotta practice. So like the summer and winter, like I'm really grateful for the quarantine time because I have just so much time in my room that I could like just focus on working and drawing all the time, which definitely was not really healthy to do, but it was helpful for the portfolio. Yeah.
I think I've been drawing as a kid, but I don't think I started really trying to draw until like 8th grade. I think that's when I found like CalArts sketchbook videos, and I was like, wait, I kind of want to do that too. So I started copying everyone's sketchbook videos for a while. But I don't think I really got into animation until I think sophomore year of high school. I applied to this summer government program called CISA, which Jenn also went to. Oh yeah, I went to CISA with Rita. And then Jenn went to CISA the year before me, I'm pretty sure. Or was it 2 years?
No,
Wait,
it's
2017.
Okay, then it must be 2 years
never
because
mind.
me and Rita went 2019, I think.
Yes, true.
And yeah. And I think there I figured out kind of what I want to do. I think animation's kind of sick, and so I decided to pursue it. It was also the first time where I was in like an artistic community or space for the first time in my life. And I found that really rewarding and kind of refreshing. So and takes place on the CalArts campus. So I think that really solidified like my want into getting into CalArts. So and then I started actually trying to get, and I think I started working on my portfolio. I think a couple months before the beginning of the CalArts like application process. But I didn't really start my sketchbook until like 2 months before it would end. And then I didn't even finish when everything was due, and I had to rip out like 10 pages and then hope no one noticed it in the video when I sent it in.
Same, no worries.
Same. I think I ripped out like 40% of my sketchbook,
Yeah.
and then I
Yeah.
taped the back cover back on.
Actually, I had during the application process because I just thought I was not good enough. Because I also like even though I drew constantly, I still didn't draw enough in my head. I think because when I was looking through stuff to put in my portfolio, I was like, wow, I really have nothing. I really drew for like and I don't have anything to put in my portfolio, so that really freaked me out. But I ended up getting in somehow. So I might have been just off my head, I feel like.
I felt that too. Like all my old work, I was like, this isn't good enough. And then I don't know. I
Yeah.
think no matter how early I started, I would have been dissatisfied with my earlier stuff.
That's also the thing.
Yeah.
I thought whatever I was drawing was not good enough yet, and I needed to draw like 2 days before everything was due to show my progress and like my current skill. Which is really, I think people should not do that. That was just, but yeah, I don't know. It was a really tough process, I think.
Yeah, I think like port season felt like such a long time period of like self-doubt, because like constantly you'd be drawing, then you review what you did, and then you see other applicants what they're doing, and they're like, oh my god, I'm not gonna be accepted for real. And it was so stressful.
Also, the fact that it was also quarantine, so you were just stuck at home working on your portfolio.
Isolating, very lonely.
It was really hard to get inspiration other than like staring at Pinterest all day. So that was really insane. But one thing that really helped me also to get into art was when I was applying for CISA, I did discover like an online community of other people want to be animators, and I kind of just like stuck to that. And I think that really helped like learn what I wanted to do and like get inspired and then make friends similar to me. Because where I live, there's not a lot of people who are into animation. So I think online community really helped out and figure out what I wanted to do. Also helped that everyone was going crazy also during portfolio season. So it wasn't that isolating.
Yeah, there was some sense of solidarity going, like everyone's like, oh my god, I forgot to save, like, oh my god, I have to like rush this in a week. Makes you feel less alone. And I also don't know a single person who finished their portfolio early. I think like everyone went up to the last minute because we felt like if we had finished it early, or if we said like, oh, this is good enough, it wouldn't be true. And like we had to struggle till the last minute to make it feel like it was worth it in our mind.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I agree.
yeah, so don't worry. Yeah,
I had that mindset because I was like, if I don't work until the last second, then I'm like, did I really do everything I could?
Yeah.
But it's fine to not do that.
Right.
Oh yeah, totally.
A lot of this is just self-doubt. I feel like objectively none of us are bad, or our work was not bad. It was good enough, but we just like personally didn't think that. So that really like was crazy.
Yeah, I think that like those like last few pieces that I rushed to push in on like the last week, I don't know if they would have made a difference.
Yeah, and this is
Yeah.
also leading into the next question also, but while making the application and stuff, I think one thing that helped me was that just constantly draw the whole time. Just constantly draw like your family
Yeah.
or your pets or like your surroundings, even if it seems boring to you, because you'll find a way to use
Yeah.
it later.
Yep.
Yep. Like I'll take my sketchbook, like I would be tied to it all the time, just so if the chance comes, then I will be sitting down and drawing, just to get any incrementally better at the drawings.
Yeah.
Yeah, I always brought my CalArts sketchbook with me everywhere. Just to like, if there
Yeah.
was like 5 minutes for waiting for like my drink at Starbucks, I'll just draw someone while
Mhm.
it's happening.
You'll be drawing the
Nice.
Starbucks. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, I
All
will
of the
draw the
stars, all of the
Starbucks.
bucks.
hmm
Good practice as an artist in general, just having a sketchbook everywhere.
Yeah.
It's true. Hmm.
The thing that is though, after I feel like the process of the CalArts portfolio and like sketchbook scarred me so bad that I just didn't touch a sketchbook for like months.
Oh, true. Yeah. After
I
the
agree. Me
yeah,
too.
True.
the
Yeah.
burnout is so
I feel
real.
like I have like a solid 2 months that I just simply didn't touch a page in it because I simply don't want to look at it. And
Yeah.
then I was like,
Dude, actually, fun fact. I think a couple months ago, I was drawing on paper, like normally, and I was showing
yeah.
Iris, who was another classmate, people listening, and she was just so surprised because like she just told me like she hasn't seen anyone draw on paper for the last few months at CalArts, and I was like, whoa,
Kind
I
of,
totally
yeah.
forgot.
Just turning computers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we draw on paper, kind of in figure drawings, but like it feels like it doesn't count because it's just like in class
Mm-hmm.
piece of paper,
Yeah.
you know? Yeah.
Our iPad babies.
We are
Yeah,
all iPad babies.
we're all iPad babies.
If you see us
It
hang out,
really
all of us have
carries.
like our school issued iPads out.
Giant screen.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. If they run the Tech Access program next year, you should absolutely get it. A
Mhm.
great I think CalArts treats its technology pretty well. We have pretty good access to like the lab, even though we wish there were more Cintiqs. But like
Yeah.
Yeah.
like
True.
truly honestly, the iPad Pro and the MacBook Pro from CalArts that they loaned to me saved my life. It was really good.
True. I
Mhm.
am recording it on the MacBook Pro right now.
Hell yeah.
Wow,
Not sponsored.
nice.
True.
Unfortunately, if you're international,
Oh.
they don't let you to keep it over the summer, but it was good. It was good
Yeah.
while it lasted.
Oh, it's so good for the school year.
Yeah. On the
Mm.
next question about like the approach to observational creative work, again, just draw all the time.
For real.
Literally.
True.
Yeah. Oh, let me just read the questions out loud because we kind of answered them through like all three together. Like I was flipping through them as we were talking, but let me just say it. General timeline making application. How did you organize and make pieces? We kind of already touched that. And then it's really similar to the next question, which is expectations in a portfolio, like how to approach observational and creative work. What did I write? For both of the last two questions, like just like I think for art school in general and also CalArts, like observational work or like your technical skill is like number one. Like
True.
no doubt.
Yeah.
Number one. You need to know that you need to show you can draw. You need to get on that figure drawing, get on that life drawing, Starbucks grind.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Also, I think one thing is that I feel like people who aren't used to figure drawing or observational drawing, I think they stylize way too much. I think you really have to look more than you're drawing. Like observe more than you are looking at your paper, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of people struggle with having some sort of style, but I think something you have to trust yourself whatever, like if you're drawing with your own hand, it's gonna look like you drew it. Like you'll have a style even if
Yeah.
you can't even see it. So even if you draw as realistically as you can, it's still gonna look like you drew it, if that makes sense.
Mhm. Like, I think style derives from, just copying reality. So there's a truth to that, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And like on top of like really practicing fundamentals, I think like such an important part of port season was like making kind of like a schedule. Like at this time I'll be doing observationals. This time I'll be doing creative work. This time I'll join a figure drawing session. So just like have a clear schedule and know what you're doing by the day, so you don't like you don't like improvise and all the way to the end, and if the deadline is coming, that you realize you're missing like a lot of the port pieces that is required. So just be prepared and have stuff to do every day. And I think like for CalArts specifically, um they have like portfolio reviews every few months. Like you can sign up for that on the website, I think. And I joined theirs um every like 3 months, which helps too, because like like you're making the portfolio and you're not sure if this is going on the right track. You can join the portfolio review and they have like a one-on-one meeting, and like you show them the portfolio and you're like, this is what I have. And they'd say, you're kind of missing this. You can add this and this. And I think that really helps just to like make sure you're on the right track, what you're doing.
True.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I didn't have a schedule for a portfolio like season, and that really messed me up. I think I just drew whenever, and then I realized I had nothing, and I freaked out.
Yeah, like at the beginning, I did that too, and it like, ooh, keep a schedule, keep a schedule. Yeah.
Okay, I think I had one more thing to say, which is at least how I approached making a portfolio is, for me, I made a list, not very specific, but it was still a pretty good list of what I wanted to showcase. So I would be like, what do I want to show? I want to show in this one, I know perspective, or like, I want to show I know how to draw like a full body figure, or like, I want to show at least like 3 environments or like 1 animal. So I have a list of those things, but I wouldn't specifically draw a thing and be like, okay, this is it for this requirement. These were just like a list, like a mental list, or like it was a list I written down, but it's just like a mental mindset, like what things I should hit. And then I would just make a lot of it, because usually when you figure draw, there's only
Right.
going to be like 2 drawings you like out of 30. That's just how it is. So then you just obviously like quality over quantity, but you're going to make a lot.
Yeah.
And then you can peruse and cherry pick your like top ones to fill in your selection. And then at the very end, if you find gaps, that's when you can be like, okay, now I actually need to draw a figure drawing for this thing. But that's how I approached it, so it felt less overwhelming.
Also, I think concerning creative work, I'm gonna be honest, I didn't have that much creative work in my portfolio.
Me too.
But yeah. But I think what I really focused on was like I made designs based off things that are important to me, or at least interesting to me. Because I feel like the portfolio and the sketchbook really shows like your personality and what you're interested in and like what you're passionate about. So I really wanted to make designs that I feel like would show like the people reviewing what I liked and who I am, if that makes sense.
Because when I was doing portfolio, I was confused by the website. Because they're so broad.
real.
They're like 15 or more, and then you're like, how much is more? So I think they do this because it's nice to see how you work genuinely, but then it makes it up to you to research stuff. I don't know if you're supposed to, but I think general questions like how many pieces should be my observational or creative section, I did not know. So I kind of had to look at some other portfolios, and then the answers all varied. So I was like, okay, you can have like the regular like 15, or you can have like 30. Yeah.
Also, I think there is a bit of like, should I look at other people's portfolios and sketchbooks while you're making portfolio and sketchbook? And I think it really depends on like what you're looking for when you see other people's stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like if it's comparing yourself like on who's better at it or like who has a better portfolio, then like don't do that.
Don't do
Don't
that.
do that.
Don't try to be crazy.
Yeah. But I
But
think if it's objective things, yeah.
I like looking at some of them because it showed like a range. Like I was like, oh, I can put a painting in my creative section. I can put like some weird sculpture stuff.
Yeah. It's also a thing, like all those videos of like CalArts and like portfolios, you don't have to follow those to a T. Like you just really have to just show yourself, if that makes sense.
When did you start thinking about art school and working on your application? Oh, and for context, most of us, when we talk about this, like we talk pretty thoroughly. Like you obviously don't have to say everything, but yeah.
For like apps and stuff, you mean? I guess I kind of started thinking about art school late because I don't know, I had just moved to the US, so I didn't know much. But basically, for my ArtCenter application, I began like 3 months before the deadline because I wasn't keeping track of the deadline. But yeah, I mean, I just have to like ratio, like manage my time very like strictly. But I guess for the ArtCenter app, one thing I will like say, because I thought they do not ask for recommendation letters, which is kind of epic, I think. It's very they ask you to like pitch a story, kind of. You have to have like it's divided between your observational work and your creative work, I'll call it. Well, your creative work is basically just like pitching out a story with like the characters and like illustrations, which they call like keyframes. You're supposed to make like 5 different keyframes that represent the story, and you also have to do storyboards. For the observational part is basically just like figure drawing. I think they do ask for a specific number of figure drawings. I do not remember what it is, but it's all up in the website. And like other sketchbook works you've done. And yeah, I think that was pretty much it. You also need to write your essays. I think they ask 2 questions, and you're supposed to write essays out of those questions. I'm not sure if they change every year, but when I was talking with the
Admissions?
yeah, when I was talking, thank you. When I was talking to
Yeah.
admissions, they did tell me like the essays were important too. So like, yeah, like do try to like put also effort into those, and
Yeah. You kind of already addressed it, but you can add on, which is the next few questions are kind of related to the portfolio. So one is like general timeline of like how you made your application and how you organize and make pieces. And then the question after that is expectations in the portfolio and how to approach observational and creative work. Because I know when I was doing ArtCenter, it's kind of different from other colleges where that they have like really specific requirements for your pitch, right? Yeah. So if you have any insight to these 2 questions.
Yeah, I guess for organizing the pieces, like stuff. I don't know if it's like very helpful. I feel it's like what everyone does with like just organizing the pieces. You have like the best at the beginning and the best at the end. At least for like observational, because for the creative pieces, you do need to like format it the way they ask for. So they do have like ArtCenter is like a bit strict on what they ask for. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I think we don't really have many thoughts.
The next question, it's pretty simple. The next question is, do grades matter when applying to art school? For CalArts, no.
For CalArts, no. No.
Definitely not.
Even in CalArts, when there is a thing where we have to do it. It's just like a college thing that the state makes the school do is that we do have critical studies, which is like classes that are, how would you describe them? It's just like something to fill the criteria where it's like
Government required classes that we need so we can be an accredited college.
yeah, like what's, since they know it's an art school, like people go there for art. These like required classes aren't very hard.
The vaguest classes count for science and math.
Yeah.
So
Like,
vague.
yeah. Like I guess what would be an example? Like, I don't know.
We had
like
a class called Being Vulnerable.
Yeah.
And it was for humanities. We were
true.
so vulnerable.
Yes, and honestly, you can talk to your professors and your TAs in those classes,
Yeah.
and they will try their best to make it as easy as you can to like pass, because everyone knows
Great.
no one really wants to do them.
You're not there
Like,
for the
Yeah.
critical studies courses. You're there for your major.
and CalArts doesn't even have a GPA. Like, if you're gonna
I think
transfer
it's
to
pass.
another,
High
yeah,
Yeah,
pass.
you can translate high pass
Yeah.
to
yeah,
4.
if you need to transfer to a different school or need like some sort of GPA for something, they will do it. They will like do it for. But at CalArts, classes are either I guess an incomplete or like or something like that, or a low pass, pass, and a high pass.
Yeah.
There's no numbers or letters or anything.
Yeah.
Which does seem sketchy at first, but I think it helps you not focus on the grade that you get and more on like experimenting with
Yeah.
stuff. Like if I got if I got number grades like I did in high school, I think I would be stressing about what
Yeah.
made my work like an 80% instead of a
Definitely.
90% instead of actually focusing on drawing. So it's pretty good.
Yeah, it's just like your grade is basically based on if you show up and you do the work.
Yeah, on the actual grade aspect, like when you're applying to CalArts, um, it is set up to receive an SAT score, but it's not required. Other schools that require a Common App to be submitted, I feel like are more stringent based on grades. Like I've heard people say that for 2 portfolios of the same level, sometimes you do look at academic performance, but for CalArts that is not the case. Um, and just like logistics stuff, I think you have to submit a Duolingo English score or a TOEFL if you're international. But that's basically it on the grades aspect. You also need a valid high school transcript, obviously, but that's like that for every other school. Yeah, or like a equivalent college credit. Yeah.
Yeah. I think generally it's like there's no pressure for top score. Like you can just
Yeah.
have mid scores and that's okay too. It's all about the portfolio.
Yeah. As long as you're not failing high school or anything like that, you're fine.
I was also going to say, for other schools, this is just what I know from applying. RISD actually does care because they have like the brown dual degree. They actually do care about your GPA, and it actually has to be like pretty good, like at least. So you have to be like primarily A to B student. You can't slack off there. And then for if you're applying to like a general university or like a typical one that has like a major like USC or like a UC, like University of California or like the Cal States and stuff, they also do care. But specifically art schools themselves, I think they don't care as much because they're like private.
I think I got like good-ish grades in high school, but for CalArts it didn't do anything for me. But for other schools, yeah, it helped. Like if it's a liberal arts school, they will look at your grades.
Yeah.
I'm actually so glad because I just didn't want to take the ACT. I just didn't want to. And I'm glad just like I think the one thing that came out of applying during quarantine was that schools waived that.
Yeah, all of them kept getting canceled, so there was no way we could submit those scores anyways.
Yeah. I think the only other thing good grades are for is like if you're taking APs and then you want to get out of some credits in college, in art school.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. The next question is, we kind of addressed this when we were talking about what do grades matter when applying to art school, or specifically ArtCenter?
I don't think they really do. I had felt like a community college class before applying, like the exact semester before applying, and I still got in. So I don't think it's like super important, but I think when it comes to financial aid, it might affect a little bit, but you can always like appeal for them and ask them for more.
Cool, thank you.
But yeah, one thing I forgot to say when the price tag, actually, just because I didn't know this either. You can, once you get your financial aid from ArtCenter, you can email the financial aid office and you can negotiate for more until like you're satisfied, I guess, or until they say that's your final offer. Yeah.
Well, that's really nice, actually.
That's so nice.
Yeah.
I like tried to negotiate with CalArts, but they didn't let me.
Oh, same.
Yeah. Next question.
We already kind of answered this.
Oh, yeah.
The person asked, did you attend any programs through the school to repair such? Do you need to? I think they meant like summer programs, like we mentioned CISA.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
For me personally, CISA wasn't to like prepare for CalArts. I took CISA because I just kind of wanted to figure out if I did want to do animation.
Yeah.
Yeah, CISA's good for that.
Because it kind of puts you through kind of like a trial, if that makes sense. It's kind of a glimpse on how an animation major would work, where you would learn stuff, obviously, like story, and like you would have figure drawing classes, and then you would have to make a 1-week film at the end of the program. And so it just kind of gives you like a glimpse of like, is this workload good for you, like this pace and the people around you, and like if you're okay with like, and I think that helps a lot with me like committing to animation. But other than that, I don't think I really it was like, I'm gonna prove really hard on art going to this program, if that makes sense.
Yeah, personally, CISA was a great experience, but there's also like other pre-college programs around the US that you can attend that might be closer to you that offers the exact same experience, like pre-college programs that are geared towards animation. Yeah, SVA comes to mind. There's Otis, there's CCA, there's Parsons, there's Pratt, like lots of other places. Yeah.
The one at Academy Art, I think, is free. Or when I went, it was free.
Oh, nice.
I think if you're from California and still in high school, you should try applying to the CISA animation program, just because like you can get financial aid if you're a California.
It's so much cheaper in state. Oh my god.
It is.
Oh my god.
I didn't have to pay that much because I was like, please give me money, and they're like, fine. Because like the thing is, they're obligated to do it. Like if you ask and you're a California resident, like citizen, they have to.
Crying.
Yeah. My CISA experiences. I was too young at CISA, I think. That sounds weird to say, but like it's like you go there and then you can't process all these like things yet. That was my experience with it, but it really helped me want to do animation. And I kept going to pre-colleges, like the one at Academy of Art, which is free in San Francisco, or it was free. I don't know about now. And my school district also has a half-day art program that had animation, and I actually made several portfolio pieces with that one. But I'm just lucky enough to have like an animation class at my school at all. Yeah.
Nice.
Wait, I was gonna say one more thing, and I think Lyly can also speak on it, which is that CalArts also has its like own little mini programs, which are separate from CISA. CISA is California government run. There's Portfolio Development Workshop, which is like strictly an online course where you just like watch a video like an hour or two long video, and then you draw an assignment, and then you get feedback. So that's the one I did, and I did it the autumn, like a few months before applying, and then that kind of put me in the mindset to make portfolio pieces. But it is pretty pricey considering it's not like a full on class. And I know there's the intensive. I think for the couple years it was online, but it's also usually in person, and it works similar to CISA. But I think Lyly can speak.
Yeah. I think I was in the intensive one. I think it's called Discover Animation usually, but when it became online, which is when I joined, it was Animation Intensive. I was in the program with Haley and the other Kirsten, which is also our classmates. But we just learned about it said animation intensive, which is funny, but they taught us more about like layout and design. More like we did character design, sketchbooking, some background art and stuff, which I think is just kind of like doing everything. But it's still good because I got a couple of really good portfolio pieces from there. Yeah, but I do recommend that course if you want to like just to get a feel of what the CalArts instructors, like how they teach, and like getting to know the people who are also want to apply to the school and stuff. Yeah.
Nice.
Did you attend any programs through the school to prepare / do you need to? So to clarify the question, I'm pretty sure the person meant like portfolio, like preparation things, or like online art courses or like art programs, things like that. So I know we talked about CISA briefly, and then also like the preparation programs CalArts also has, but I know there's definitely like other art camps and stuff, if you have anything to contribute.
I also attended CISA, I guess. I didn't do anything through ArtCenter, but I think they're currently like doing this like experimental program, I guess. I don't know how it's called, where they are like reviewing future applicants. And I just know because I got the email that current students can like join in and help out.
Oh, that's
But
cool.
that's all I know, I think.
The second question is kind of the big thing. Yeah, CalArts sketchbook culture and exactly how important it is. Does anyone want to toss it?
They're not important.
No.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think we did talk about
not
this
important.
before. They're not important.
Yeah. As like impressionable, like high school, I definitely was like the most important thing in the world. It's not. I would argue the portfolio is obviously a lot more important because that's the first thing they see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think what was it? I think I this is off on the top of my head, but I think and it was something about how they see the portfolio first, and I think then sketchbook and then the artist statements, and then if it's really like hard to see if you can get I said that wrong, but like if and then they sometimes would check the recommendation letters and your grades and stuff like that. But I think they mainly look at your portfolio and then a little bit at your sketchbook. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
True.
Lots of times they just like not even look at the sketchbook that much. I've heard a lot that they just like skim through it or like even flip into a page and then that is done. That's all they need to see.
Yeah. They're not going to like look at every single page with like with the magnifying glass to see your mistakes.
Yep. I attended like this Q&A with the admissions Zoom meeting several times, and like every time there'll be a question like, "Hey, how important is the sketchbook?" And they'd always be like, "Not important. Don't put too much effort into that. Just make sure the page is filled because they don't like looking at blank pages. So just like take that in mind. Just to fill. If you have that page, you fill that page. Don't like leave a whole square blank. You know."
Mm-hmm. I think the sketchbook really just like what you like to draw and your personality and like just like, just an insight into who you are.
Yeah, please do
Yeah.
not copy the ones you see on YouTube.
Yeah.
No,
I
that will
think
stress
like
you out.
Yeah, it definitely will.
don't
I did the same
go
thing.
through it.
It was
Me too.
truly put my ass into that sketchbook, and it was honestly not worth it.
Don't like cry over your sketchbook and
Never.
for like
Yeah.
them to just
Never.
like look at 3 pages and close it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wait, how important was the video essay?
Hmm? Oh yeah, I forgot.
I'm not sure.
The one thing for the character animation application is you have to make a video essay. It's only 30 seconds long, but you just have to film yourself and why you want to be part of the program, basically. I'm pretty sure.
I think it's 90 seconds long.
Is it 90 seconds?
I think it's 90.
It's
I think
90.
90.
I think it's, yeah, okay.
Oh, 30
Yeah.
to 90. Yeah, that's probably, yeah.
Yeah. Which they asked like, I think for our year it was like what event made you decide to go into art school? Something like that.
Yeah, like what made you pursue?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of a vague
I just
question.
ranted about Astro Boy in a chicken coop for like 90 seconds, and
You
then
know, good for you. Good
Oh
for
yeah,
you.
like 90% of my thing was about D&D, yeah.
Mm-hmm. I think it's honestly that. Don't stress about that either. I think it's just to see who you are, basically.
Yeah.
Right. Just be comfortable.
Because mine is. I was like, oh no, there's like a couple hours before I have to turn this in, so I like stacked a bunch of books on my bed at like 3 a.m. and then like just balanced my phone on it, and then I just like it's like animation because I want to tell stories, and then that was like it.
So true.
Yeah, same.
I was really grimy in mine.
Yeah,
I
me
did it
too.
also at like late at night
did not
in my
prepare.
room. I used my phone. It popped up. I was like, "Hi, this is me." In the most like
Crazy.
CalArts app state ever, just like so grimy. But
Mhm.
don't
I mean, like
look
that's
grimy.
like the most candid version of ourselves is like grimy
It's the
at
most
3 a.m.
vulnerable. It's
speaking
vulnerable.
into a horizontal phone
Yeah.
camera.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people film theirs like last second, just because
Yeah.
it's like I feel like
Yeah.
it's not the most important part of the process.
Yeah.
True.
There's something I did with my sketchbook.
What'd you do?
I printed my baby photo, like my cutest baby photo, as big as possible, and I put it at the end. So that was the last thing they
Oh
see
my
after
god,
I
that's
flip through it.
That's so cute.
That's so
That's
cute,
classic.
Jen.
That's great.
But it's like ethos. I tried to appeal
Yeah.
to the empathy.
That's so funny because for me personally, the last when you close my sketchbook is like the most unhinged drawing of myself, and I look
yeah,
crazy.
me too. Last page, I drew myself breaking my wrist.
Yeah,
God.
mine is like I'm like wide eye, like Jeff the Killer type stare, and I'm just like, please let me in.
No.
It's like, thank you for looking through my sketchbook, and that's the last thing you see.
Hell yeah.
Do that or put a baby photo at the end of it.
Yeah, nothing in between.
Oh, don't beg to get in. Please don't do that. Please don't put that in your sketchbook. That was a joke. I didn't actually beg to get in.
Yeah.
I mean,
just
do
like a
what you want
thank
to
you.
do. I don't
I've
think
seen
they
it before.
want that much. If you're applying, they know.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm just like, the sketchbook is not all that. Just finish it, and then you're good.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
But they are super fun to look through, though. Like the videos people post.
I think it's like understandable why it's really hyped online too, because I feel like it's like a whole it's a lot of art, so you just like look through everything, so it's fun. But then portfolio wise, it's not that important.
Yeah, I think it.
Yeah.
It's fun to look at, but since it's the only thing you see from the CalArts application process online publicly, people think it's like the number one thing to get you in, which is not true.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think sketchbooks just have so much personality, and that's why people post them a lot. But I don't know why people don't post their whole portfolios a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I think also just because this is veering off the topic, but like sketchbook videos, because it's in video format, so it's also easier to enjoy than just scrolling through images or slides of drawings,
Mm-hmm.
True.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Most of the people who upload their portfolios on YouTube do like a talk through or like a walkthrough of all their pieces. And yeah, I can understand if you don't have the energy to do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, last question. I feel like I'm the only one who can really answer this one, but it's the person said CA rejections, which I assume means character animation rejections. And I think I am the only one out of this group that applied a second time. So I understand the pain of not getting in. Don't worry if you're like watching this and you didn't get in your first try or your second try or maybe your third. I get it. But I mean, getting rejected from anything sucks, obviously. So in the moment, I was like, no, but like I was like that. What is that? The anime gif of the guy with white hair. He's like crying, and there's like rain in the back.
Sorry, that's threw me off.
So true.
But in reality, honestly, it was fine. Like I got into other schools, and also it's like another thing, like the college or bus mindset, where like, honestly wasn't a big deal because I was gonna go to another school anyway. But then COVID happened, so I was like, okay, no school. Like it's not worth it in general. Which is another thing. Like now that I look back, I'm like kind of grateful for because CalArts also went online for their first year. So I think I would have done really poorly, like given my like skill set then, and also just like the mental situation then, it would have not been good for me. So even though in the moment I didn't know if I would get in my second try, I'm glad I tried and experienced more of an in-person.
I think the one thing that just spans all college rejections, especially art ones, is just like, how did this person not get? Dude, we don't know. No idea. I don't know. They're just like people you think will get in don't get in. It's just a thing that happens. You can't read the people judging like minds.
Yeah. So many super talented people that we know did not get in, and it was very upsetting. I think we stewed in anger for like a week. But
Yeah.
And even sometimes there were points where like when people would be working labs and then accept like rejections would come out, and then we would all like at once and be like, wait, this person did not get in.
Yeah,
and
it doesn't
everyone
make
would be
sense.
like, what?
It's not adding up. It's actually not adding up.
Oh my god, yeah. And we were just like,
if you're out there, we're so sorry, but you'll flourish. It's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's important to like distance yourself from the result no matter what, because like these types of things are really unpredictable. If you did your best, then that's already the best you could do, right?
And
so it doesn't matter.
Yeah. Just because you don't get it doesn't mean that your art's ass. Like it, I don't know why you didn't get in, but it's definitely not that.
Yeah, true.
Yeah. Don't blame it on yourself.
Yeah, and no shame in, trying again if it's really something you want to do.
Yeah, a lot of people have tried, like, I think have applied more than 2 or 3 times to get in, which is perfectly normal. You don't have to go to college straight out of high school.
Which is honestly, I don't know if it's a good decision at all, just in general. Like, maybe it is good to take a year to find yourself, but alas, we are here.
Yeah, and if you and it's okay to just not go to college. Like, if you get rejected and you think, oh, I don't want to apply again, or like, oh, I'm not. Yeah, basically, you don't have to go to CalArts.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, next section is school life questions. Okay, first question is, do they teach how to use animation softwares in animation school, or do you have to already know the basics? Okay, I'll say that for CalArts, like there's like obviously they teach you specific programs. If like you're doing CG, they'll teach you Maya, and then for 2D animation, our teacher uses 2D Paint. But there's also a class called Digital Methods, where the teacher just kind of teaches like all programs in existence and then makes you do different things. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like a really good option to have. Not option, sorry. A really good resource to have first year, because usually you're coming into these programs blind, but the teachers are super understanding. So, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it's pretty
Yeah,
good.
I feel like, yeah, it's like a comprehensive set so that you get to know the basics of all like the main softwares that is in the industry.
Mm-hmm. I like that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how other schools work, but I like that since CalArts, we need to make our film, and sometimes we need to know technical things about programs. You can just like message the teacher and be like, "How do you do this?"
True.
Or like
And
there's
they'll
this
just tell
film you
you.
like, is there's like a film you like? You're like, "How did they do this effect?" And the teacher will be like, "Here's a step by step," and you're like, "Yes, now I can also become a master." So that's really nice.
They teach you, well, at least, like, if a certain class requires, like, a software, they'll just teach you how to use it for, like, the first class. I'm pretty sure because, like, for CG and, like, yeah, mostly for CG, because they use Maya, I think they switch it back to paper and 2D. The first semester is, like, exclusively teaching you how to, like, use it, and you do, like, the most basic animation segments, just so you can get used to Maya. But yeah, so far they've teach me how to use the software in any class that requires one.
Oof. The next question, two dangerous words: mental health. Oh, okay. What do I have to say? Uh, I think it's, at least this is what I remember I wrote in the Google Doc. This is a very general topic, so I have to say it will depend on person to person. Like, I don't want to generalize something because obviously everyone has like very personal experiences. And I'm not sure like what about mental health you're talking about. Like, if a lot of the issues you're going through are things like outside of school or whatever, then you have to deal with them and it's complicated. And another thing I think a lot of people can relate to it is that you think like, especially if you're young, when you like get accepted to your college, like all my problems will go away. Like I'm gonna be so mentally well once I enter
True.
college. Like everything's gonna be solved once I step into campus, but it's not. It's not gonna be changed. So just be aware of that. It's not gonna be that you're still gonna be depressed at school. Like hopefully you feel better, but you still have to like adjust and actively work. And then for workload, that is like a whole another thing. But I'll let other people talk. Yeah.
Yeah, I think personally for me, like, I already had pretty bad work habits and like mental health habits before I came in. So I think college just kind of exacerbated that. Like, it definitely made it worse. So I think it's good to always be mindful of the kinds of like mental sinkholes you can fall into when you're really stressed or under a deadline, because it's easy to manage if you're not bombarded with work, but definitely harder to pay attention with a college kind of workload. So yeah, just I guess be careful.
I will say that like the environment you're in is very understanding, and I would say that a lot of teachers encourage you to take care of yourself and have that kind of like awareness. So I would say that you're surrounded by people who understand if you are going through stuff. So obviously that doesn't like solve your problem, but it does make it significantly easier to open up if you do need help from outside sources.
True.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, there are counseling and mental health services, I think, at school. I haven't used them, but I've heard from classmates and friends and stuff that it's like, all right, so there's a network to support you.
Yeah, and some students do go like and use the school health insurance to like have access to like therapy and stuff.
This is me talking from my experience, but I don't know if anyone can relate, but it was strange that once we all entered like crunch mode for like working really hard, for some reason, that the fact that you're so busy working, like I didn't have time to like think like mental health wise. I was just like,
that's true.
It's like, I'm depressed. Yeah. No, I have to do this assignment. Like that's for another day.
It's 10 minutes of breakdown and then we got to get back to work. Right?
Yeah.
Like it's busy time. Yeah. Yeah.
So I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but when I was working, I was like, I don't have time to be depressed. I have to work.
I feel like it's like unequivocally a bad thing when the lesson is that art school teaches you how to compartmentalize, but that's definitely what it is. Like, you absolutely do not have time to schedule this breakdown right now. I have a good class to attend. But yeah, the teachers will understand if they see that you're struggling, and I think as long as you tell them in advance. I mean, you can miss a couple of days of work and be okay just as long as you communicate your needs.
Yeah. Like, I think it's not bad that, like, we get used to crunch time, you know, like, getting to know, like, oh my God, there's a deadline, we really have to work. But then, remember, there's, like, a bunch of artist talks in our school, and then they're, like, alumni, and they're like, oh yeah, CalArts was, like, the time that I worked hard the most. After I entered the industry, it's just so much more chill. And I have no idea how I did that back in CalArts.
I do want to add, I do want to add, ArtCenter kind of has like an awful grained or like mindset where they're more like you know, like those gifts they give to incoming students, they give them like some tote bags that say like shit like up all day, up all night. Because it's like so ingrained. Yeah. Because it's like so ingrained into like the school culture for some reason. Personally, I think I did fine. I don't think the animation track specifically at ArtCenter is so heavy. Most of the infamy definitely comes from like the concept track and stuff. And my instructors have also been like very understanding. But like just because of that like same culture the school has, I just think it's important to say that like do take care of yourself. Like work doesn't matter that much. I think I've made it through like without doing work for like a week because I got sick. I did just fine. So like it really is not worth all the all-nighters and shit.
So true.
Yeah. I think people talk about imposter syndrome in art school a lot.
True.
Yeah.
That's very true.
Oh, I was just gonna say that someone actually did, like, I think an incoming classmate did ask me, which was like, how do you deal with like not feeling like ready or good enough to go to art school? And for like that kind of imposter syndrome, my kind of advice is that I feel like if you spend too much time like freaking out or like worrying about that, you're not going to use your opportunity to the fullest, because I think that's like a very universal experience. But if it like, it's really hard, but if you get out of the mindset that like, oh, everyone's better than you, this is like competition, and you finally just open up and it's like, oh, I like, no matter how good I am, at least I'm here, so I might as well make the best of it. Once you switch to that, I feel like I gained like much more better experience. It's just healthier.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, having a competitive mindset sucks so bad.
Yeah, but
like,
it
I don't
happens.
know. I feel like,
yeah, being surrounded by so many talented people. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I was just gonna say, like, I remember when we first came in, like, school just started. I remember, I forget who, but a teacher was like, it's pretty normal for students to have that kind of imposter syndrome. But it's better just to not worry about it since you're already here. There's no use in dwelling on like whether or not you deserve to be here. Especially, I know art schools are very competitive, and so people obviously put a lot of like worth into whether or not someone gets accepted. And for me, I feel like when I first started at CalArts, it was online at first. So a lot of my classmates, most of my classmates, I've never met or talked to in real life. So you only like interact with them through seeing the art at school. And so I think a lot of people started developing that kind of like, oh my God, my classmates are so good. I don't deserve to be here. And then once you get to know your classmates, you realize like all these artists that you were like, holy crap, they're so good. How am I even classmates with these people? They have like the same exact thought process where they're like, oh, my art is not good enough. And so you just realize that everyone kind of has the same feelings towards their own art, you know?
True.
Yeah. Yeah, sometimes it's comforting to know that like everyone is struggling in the same way. So it's like, don't hold back the imposter syndrome. I feel like at least the school environment, because everyone is kind of like-minded, we can just open up and just be like, oh my God, like this assignment is so much. And all of us just freaking out over it. I think that kind of open space environment is really good.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I feel like I've also heard people talk about like some of their teachers who will be like, oh yeah, this is a drawing I did. It kind of sucks. Like teachers will say that about their own art too. And I feel like it's just like a perpetual artist thing where you're just very hard on your own work.
Unavoidable, feels like.
Yeah.
Something I think I did a lot during the school year is that we all had like the same coursework and amount of classwork. But then I would feel like I couldn't complain or like vent or feel bad or feel stressed about it because everyone else would have the same amount and they were all doing it. So like why was I stressed out by it?
But yeah, I get you. I think everyone was probably struggling in the same way because I felt the same too. I was like, this is actually so much work and I don't even feel like I'm producing that much.
Wait, can I just say, like, I remember for 2D animation, our first assignment was like a bouncing ball. And I was like, okay, I did the bouncing ball.
Oh, wow.
I can sleep. And then I checked like the assignment board and so people would have like the most rendered, like perspective, dramatic background with the ball bouncing like 5 million times. And I was like, oh, okay, I guess I have to do that too.
The first assignment is always high effort, and then towards the end of school year, like, people aren't even turning shit in. So, like, I don't know. People get burned out really
3
fast.
or 4 months in.
Yeah.
There is no trying.
Yeah. But like then also it makes sense because then we start having film and stuff. So it's like a bunch of work piling up. Like we don't have time for the smaller assignments, which makes sense. It's logical.
Wait, that kind of ties into the second question, which is the workload. I think this was asked by an incoming student because they said they were confused about like how the workload is because everyone says something different about it, which makes sense. Everyone has different like work ethic.
I do have a thought. My thought is that I think the workload is in CalArts is technically not a lot. Like the film work and stuff, if you put it into a schedule and you like work your assignments like every week and not let that pile up, I think it's definitely manageable. But then if you start letting the workload pile up, like if you leave all of your assignments till Sunday and then you have to be done with everything by next week, it's definitely gonna like be like really stressful. And it's just gonna keep like the pattern will keep being repeated because that happened to me. Like first semester, I would keep piling up my assignments all the way till the weekends. And then it's like, I'm starting getting really stressed and then it would be like a cycle of like overworking and then underworking. And it's just like, I'm super fatigued from working and drawing like for 12 hours simultaneously and then just not doing anything because then I want to procrastinate. So definitely make a schedule, like assign your assignments throughout the week and don't let that pile up.
I agree that like the workload, it's like if you're doing the assignments, it's not too terrible. But I think it's like, I thought about this during school, like the teachers would be like imagine like metaphorically, the teachers ask you to jump like 3 feet and then everyone in the class decides to jump 6 feet for some reason. And then someone decides to draw, people could just keep like the assignment, like you could just do the assignment and turn it in, but then there's also, you could work on it forever, all day and night, and make it really good. Yeah.
That's true.
I think it just definitely depends on your priorities and what class you're putting more effort to. Since it's not like an academic school setting where there's a set amount of work that you need to do. It's art assignments, like, and you know, stuff like art. There's not like a set amount of time you put into something, right? So it just depends on how much effort you want to put into each assignment, because technically you could do all the assignments really fast and get stuff over with. But as Jenn said, people tend to put a lot more effort, and so sometimes if you have that kind of mindset where you're like, oh, my classmates are putting like so many hours into this, you feel like you need to put in more, then things can start piling up.
Yep. Yeah, definitely know yourself and like choose what you want to focus on. Cause yeah, like for CalArts, I definitely didn't pay attention to a lot of the CG assignments, and I chose to like focus on like the other classes assignment, because then it's just like knowing yourself and like, hey, you don't have to, and you probably shouldn't go to all the 9s and 10s in every single class, because it's not worth it. It's going to risk you physically and mentally too, to try to impress everyone in everything.
I was gonna mention film, because I think that's a weird thing to navigate, because I think most of us come from very traditional like school, and also college works the same, where you have the class and you get homework and it's due on this day, and you're like, cool. But for film, there isn't that structure, especially for first year, because for context, for I know second year and beyond for CalArts, there's a class called Film Workshop, which is like dedicated to making your film. But for first year, there isn't really that. Like, we have story class, but that's also like a class for to learn story, right? There isn't a class dedicated to your film. So there isn't really like, at least for me, how I felt, there isn't like a solid checking point on how you should make your like film and stuff. So there isn't like, oh, you have to do this much by then. It would be like the teachers be like, hey, you should have your storyboard by the end of the month. And I'd be like, I don't have a storyboard yet. Thanks, teacher, for reminding me where I should be. So I found that learning how to like also make your own like steps of, oh, I should do this much at this time, so we can finish one big project at the end date.
I think there's a reason why people say like a lot of varying things about the workload at CalArts, or just the workload in general at art schools. I think people just work differently. Like, I draw slow, but some other people can finish lineups in like an hour, so it's just how fast they work.
Yeah, it's also like mileage too, because I feel like, you know, like after the first year that I realized that like if I just practice more of the assignments, and the next time I do a similar assignment, I'll finish it much quicker too. So it's all like keep on practicing and stuff.
Yeah, and another good thing is like, you know, if you work a lot on 2D animation assignments, you end up being able to find a pipeline for yourself and have a much easier time working on your film. So if you do assignments that are kind of in the realm of things that you're going to want to do with the film that you've planned, you're going to have an easier time, basically. And for people who are incorporating CG elements, you can combine a lot of assignments and they do encourage you to combine assignments, like the teachers, to incorporate into your film. And that's, a good time, generally. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like, infamy aside, I feel like, honestly, the animation track at ArtCenter is not that heavy compared to, like, illustration or concept. But, yeah, if you don't procrastinate like me, you can pretty much get through the 4 years without a single all-nighter. Cause my roommate did, I don't know how. But yeah, honestly, the teachers that gave me the most workload were the annoying ones that were like, oh yeah, I'm an ArtCenter alumni. This is how we did it in the concept track or in the illustration track, and they would give you like a ton of homework for no reason at all. But other than that, it's like just like 1 or 2 instructors. I feel like it's pretty manageable. I also feel like the first semester is the heaviest one. After that, it's just like, as long as you have like a good schedule, like you know how to manage your work, you'll be just.
Yeah, I feel like this is repeated a lot through all of our questions, but having a schedule is so important. It's insanely important that, like, you pace yourself and absolutely follow that schedule to the T. Don't let that slip up, because that is, having the work pile up is going to affect you so much. Like, make the schedule, follow the schedule.
Yeah, I got so much better with my work once I made a schedule after like 2 semesters.
Yeah, the time will come. Mm-hmm.
Next question. The person said, like, is working during your first year a feasible option? So to explain what they probably mean, I think they mean where to work, like a side job, not necessarily an industry job, like either like off campus or on campus job. I didn't work one, so I don't have much to say.
I think it's pretty feasible. How about working I needed to work like 3 to 4 days a week to be able to pay rent, because ArtCenter does not have dorms, and I hate them for that. But yeah, because it is so expensive. But yeah, I feel like it's pretty feasible. But also the job I was working at gave me like insanely good tips, so I was able to take some days off when I had like the most workload without having to worry about that. But other than that, I feel like I was able to manage just fine, including my procrastination.
Nice. Yeah, I had a job too, but it was way less demanding. It was only 1 day a week. And honestly, I think because I have just generally a pretty like shit work ethic, I did find myself becoming pretty annoyed whenever I had to say like, "Oh, sorry, I have work and I can't go and do my assignments in the labs." But generally it didn't impact my schedule that much. But like if you're thinking of holding like a full-time job, or like even a part-time job that's making like 20 hours a week, I'd say unless it's really, really necessary, try to focus on the resources that the school provides, and to spend most of your time, I guess, perfecting your skills, doing your assignments and stuff, because that is generally the priority at school. Unless it's really necessary for you to keep working, then I guess you have to have a really good schedule for it. Yeah.
I think an important thing to note is, if I remember correctly, international students, because they're on international visa, they can't work full time during the school semester. If I remember correctly. you can only work full time when it's like vacation time, but otherwise you're not allowed to work more than that.
That
And this is a
sounds
visa thing.
correct.
Yeah, and this is a visa thing, not really a school policy thing. Just
Wow,
you
America
just can't do
sucks.
that in the US.
Did they also say that international students can't get paid like than people outside the school? Or
This is like whispering right now. Like because of visa reasons, we can't work full time as an international student. You can't work full time. You can't accept donations. You can't work online. So even if you're not physically working in the US, it's said that you can't receive money online or like work as a freelancer online. Which
I think it's quite hard to enforce everyone's online presence and keep tabs on everyone. So I mean, unless you're accepting really huge amounts of money, I think you should be fine. There's zine fairs, there's small business opportunities inside the school. I think realistically, just be careful, I guess, but I don't think they really put like that much emphasis on it. Whispering. Also, as an F1 student, I think you can only hold on-campus jobs. Yeah.
Wait, really? Dude,
Yeah.
Man.
that
no,
sucks.
you can work part-time outside even.
I heard you had to apply for jobs that are in the field that you're studying for CPT.
Yes.
Otherwise, you can't do them. You had to do on campus.
That too. I think so.
Yeah.
That's for CPT at least. I think that's for CPT at least, which is like internship related, and that's where that could work for school credit. But then OPT, which is like actual jobs, I'm not sure if it could only be work that is related to what you're studying. Might have to check that. Might have to fact check that.
I think we should check that. I remember being told that I could only hold an on-campus job as an F1 student. At least in my first year, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
But CPT has to be applied for after 2 semesters of full-time academic study. Fact check that. I'm not that sure.
I know this. 1 semester of school and in good academic standing.
Is it 1 semester or 1 term?
Good question. I think it's 1 term, actually.
Okay.
Fuck.
So 2 semesters.
Yeah. Okay.
Please check with your international offices.
Next question? Okay. This is quite an interesting topic. 2 words. Dorm life. So, what do I have to say? I have a lot to say.
Go on, Jamie.
I'm so sorry, Jamie.
Well, I'm not going to disclose what happened, but I had like the worst dorm situation.
It's funny.
It had like the worst dorm situation ever. Like, everything was against me. I cannot sleep safely. I'm exaggerating. I was physically very safe, but mentally it was dangerous. But yeah. But even then, I was like, okay, staying on campus for first year is worth it. Because other people can talk about this. The CalArts like on campus like building is like falling apart as we speak. Like there was a time where there was no hot water. So they made like showering stalls in front of the dorm, and we're like, "Can you just shower there instead as we fix it?" And you had to like carry a little like shower bag up in front of the road and use the stall.
Oh, sorry. I remember back in CSA, the people right in front of our dorm, their shower was like it was just coming out like brown water, and they had to use our shower.
Oh, the sludge!
Yeah.
Holy shit!
Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard about the sludge.
The sludge trademark.
Copyrighted.
I only live in the CalArts dorms for CSAV, and I was on the ground floor, like the first floor, and my roommate, I don't think just my roommate, like she would wake up screaming in the night because there would always be maggots in her bed.
That's crazy. Holy crap.
That's insane.
And I think I
What
found
the
them in
hell?
another part of the room. And they were like super fat, and they're like over an inch long. They're so fat.
Oh my god.
I don't know what they were. They were
Horror story. That's crazy.
large and white.
Large and white.
To be honest, I've never really had any dorming issues. I've never encountered the sludge or maggots or anything like that. But I think I just got lucky. A lot of people have pretty bad roommate situations too. It's just all luck. If you know someone who you would want to room with, that you know that you would get along, room with them if you can. But I will say that it's also pretty often that people room with their friends, and then like something happens, So
True. Yeah, I will echo what Vince has said. I think I also got pretty lucky with my dorm situation, but I think be communicative with your suite mates if you have problems with them. It will be bad. But yeah, I think I was blessed with a very nice roommate and two very understanding and responsible suite mates.
Good for you.
But sorry
Good
for the rest of you guys.
Yeah.
Well, also, even though I went through so many problems, I feel like, at least in my opinion, if you can, staying on campus your first year is really helpful because like you're getting to like know people, right? And it's honestly like, even if your room is full of maggots and is molding, at least it's nearby someone else who understands you. Like, you can just walk down the hall and hang out with people, Like, if your, like, toilet doesn't work, you can use someone else's toilet. Like, isn't that nice?
That's crazy, dude.
That's true.
Basically, Jamie is telling everyone to put up with the maggots as long as you can share that struggle with someone else.
So, I mean, like, you just hang out with people. It's a lot more convenient.
The maggots are worth it if you have friends to enjoy the maggots with.
Maybe the real maggots were the friends we made along the way.
So true.
I forgot to pay my housing deposit.
Oh.
No, I was off campus first year, but it was snow.
Oh yeah, I will add, because I need everyone to know, ArtCenter does not have dorms. They do not have dorms, and even though they have plans, they would probably not make the dorms for like another 5 years. So I just need everyone to know that.
Sorry. It must be really inconvenient, especially for like international students.
Yeah, it's probably yeah. But yeah, they do have a shuttle, like a school shuttle that goes on a route around I think from South Pasadena all the way to the Hillside campus. But if you have a car and you can like live somewhere that's not in Pasadena, that'd be better, because Pasadena is really expensive for no reason. So if you can like live outside Pasadena, that's like better for your wallet.
Oh yeah. If we were to talk about the general area, I guess, you kind of need to know how to drive in California. Dang. Like, public transit is not working here.
Yeah. My apartment was in walking distance. It was pretty nice.
The Santa Clarita area, where CalArts is based, does have a bus system, but unfortunately, relying on that bus system has frequently brought disappointments. So, having a car is great. It would be a beautiful, beautiful dream to be able to drive and not have to rely on the bus that literally doesn't work past 6 p.m. Yeah, And there's a train station too, but that train is very does not come at regular intervals and is quite far away. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is a California problem more than anything. I guess if you don't live in like a city center, having a car would be good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly. It's a very car friendly designed place.
Yeah. Which is good that some people live in dorms. So you don't have to,
Yeah,
you can cut that transport out of your life.
I want to say the pros and cons of off-campus living. The pros are when all of you guys lose your hot water, I have hot water.
Yeah.
I was so jealous for those 3 days. I was like, Jenn can shower. Why can't I?
But apartments, they can be lonely. They aren't too bad. It's like Jamie said, I can't like feel bad about maggots with other people.
Yeah.
So you still get maggots though?
No.
Okay.
So no more maggots.
No more.
I can't share the suffering if there's no suffering to share. Or, yeah.
Oh, now you're just flexing.
Yeah, haha.
And for your second year, you have to get off campus. Most people get off campus housing anyway, so it's not like dorm living is guaranteed like some colleges in California. God, I'm jealous, but yeah, most people do tend to find an apartment around the area. Yeah, look around on Zillow. There's CalArts is within a residential area, so it's not terribly hard to find apartments. I guess it's just a little difficult to deal with landlords, but it shouldn't be too bad.
Next question. Okay, this is the last question. And then I guess it can also be also
Crazy.
thoughts. How would you say your experiences differed from how you expected it? Did art school meet your expectations? For me, CalArts has a lot of problems. I think we mentioned the problems many times, but I kind of started expecting those problems when I came into the school because just like us students before us were very vocal. So when I was like, okay, I'm going to this school, and all the upperclassmen were like, by the way, the school is like old and falling apart. I'm like, cool, that's fine. I like pretended that was okay. Kept just dealing with it. So I would say in that regard, I like every single time bad news was brought up, I would just be like, oh, it's okay, it's fine. I sort of expected this. Like, this is what I signed up for. I would move on. And what else? Oh, yeah. So for me, like, the social aspect, I didn't really know what to expect because I came from a very, like, non-art place. Like, I had no experience of, like, being in a location where more than 2 people knew how to draw. Like, I could not conceptualize that. Like, everyone was on the STEM line. So that's why I wanted to go to art school in the first place. Like, I wanted to experience like a supportive or like social environment where everyone started to understand like your goals and your interests. So to be honest, I sort of romanticized that a lot when I was entering the school, but CalArts did like fulfill that dream. It actually is a very supportive environment. And I like how you can be very open in general. Like, I think a lot of people describe it as one big family. And if you ever have like a question or something, you can always reach out. So I really appreciate it in that aspect. So I would say my expectations and those degrees were fulfilled, but there's always surprises. Don't romanticize college too much. Like, not all your problems will be fixed.
Yeah, I think last semester because I also romanticized college a lot, especially after CISA. I don't know, our ArtCenter is not like, it's very industrial, kind of. like I wouldn't say it has the usual art school vibes, which kind of disappointed me because for the same reason I romanticize art school a lot. But yeah, I guess I'm just like repeating what Jane said. Just don't romanticize any college. I don't know. I guess last semester I kind of have like small breakdown because I'm like I don't know if I can keep like studying in this track. I should probably move to illustration or other colleges. But I don't know. It's kind of just because of the fact I went in expecting like so many things, like especially after CSAP, and like it wasn't the same. Especially after the pandemic, I still haven't gotten like the full ArtCenter experience. But yeah, I forgot where I was going with this. Sorry.
Wait, yeah, I kind of feel that. Now that I think about the problems, there was a very big problem, which is that when I was going to the school, obviously, I was like, oh, we're gonna have cubes. So for people who don't know, cubes are like a CalArts thing where you get like this little area in the school where you work, and like, you know, like people will talk about like those kind of events, and then college was like, by the way, those don't exist anymore. It kind of got flooded, and it's kind of getting like constructed really slowly. So that, and then the pandemic is there, right? So it's online. So then sometimes I'm like, dang, if like none of these things are happening, maybe I could have gotten like a more enriching experience. But then like the little angel on my shoulder is like, why would you think that? Be thankful for your current experiences. And I'm like, thank you, angel. But maybe the angel is too toxically positive.
Okay.
I think unfortunately with like a lot of college experiences, you're bound to minor construction setbacks or something not happening as advertised. There's always going to be some part that does not meet your expectations, and I think it's unrealistic to expect that it's the college experience is going to live up to every aspect. But unfortunately our year, I guess the big thing was that the building is flooded. So we do not have a building. Unfortunately that is quite a major setback. And but I guess that it happens. And with quarantine too, I think there are some upperclassmen who got basically like their I don't know, like 80% of their school experience was online, and that's I don't know, not ideal either, I guess. But yeah, make decisions as you see fit. It's not the be all end all of anything if you decide it's not worth it for you. So
I didn't really have expectations before I went into school. Something I didn't expect was how tight and close-knit the animation program is, but I really like it. Like, everyone's super supportive, and I think I learned most from my peers, so this really works for me. Also, I like the culture, like open show. Open show is cool.
Yeah, I agree. I loved being at the open show and just like watching everyone's film, and just like it's such a chill, big event.
Yeah, I guess I'll mention recording community. I'm guessing it's mostly due to the fact that 80% of students are like international, so I feel like there's not much of a community, at least when it comes to like the American side, I guess. If you're international, you'll probably do just fine, especially if you're like, 'cause I know most of internationals are either from China or Hong Kong, so like the community on that part is very big. They all usually tend to like group together. But if you're from like California or whatever, the community is way smaller. So yeah, I feel like if you're going into ArtCenter looking for a community, there's not gonna be a lot. But yeah.
Oh, wait, that made me think, if we're talking about student population, I guess it's diverse, but as you can probably think, a lot of people come from different areas. So for me, like some of the like demographics, I was kind of surprised. I was like, why is this so much smaller? This so much bigger? And then I know some people from like completely different areas had like opposite reactions. So I will say CalArts has a good amount of international students, obviously, from different countries. Or what I'm saying is like character animation too. Yeah, and gender and like LGBT wise, we kind of are, how do I say it? There's a lot of LGBT people here, yes. Yay. It's a very supportive, open community in that regard. So you're allowed to, at least how I feel, you're allowed to express yourself and present who you want to be, which is, I mean, art school kind of gets that reputation, so I kind of expected that. But if you come from a more like conservative place, I guess you'll be pleasantly surprised.
I feel like on the straightest side, I met like 3 gay people at ours.
No.
But I guess it's also just because of the fact it's a lot of internationals from like, there's like different cultures and stuff. Like, I don't really get along with them, so there might be like more just in the above. But I think it's very funny.
Okay. Yay! We finished all the questions.
Yay!
Yay.
Oh my god! Yay!
So confetti. Confetti sound. The end. Outro song. Woo! It's just like a podcast.
Click the link in the description to
Like
get
and
60%
subscribe.
off.
Smash that like button. Destroy the subscribe button.
What else? Oh yeah, I was gonna joke and be like, comment down below if you have anything to say. But like, actually do comment. I don't know who's gonna see this. And if you do, if you still have questions, I will answer them. Or
True.
if you hate something or think we said something wrong, tell us so I can fix it. I appreciate feedback. And maybe I already talked to some people and they're like, if you do this again next year, I'll join. And I'm like, yeah, so maybe actually do smash that like button so I can do this again.
You can also hit the notification bell if that's
Yes.
that's your liking.
So you can get next year's notification.
True.
Okay. Thank you so much for watching / listening to all of this. If you have reached the end of this, thank you so much. I'm sorry if we rambled too much. I hope this was really insightful. I will be putting everyone's socials hopefully edited onto the screen so you know who's talking. Yay!
Yay!
I do not know if there's a next video, so I can't say see you next video, but thank you for watching.
Thank you.
Yay, we did it!
Yay!
Yay!
It's professional.